Saturday is the NCAA championships, and we're going to go live right after the Wednesday and Thursday podcasts, 10:20 p.m. Central for Wednesday, 8:50 p.m. Central for Thursday, and then on Friday and Saturday, we'll go live during the actual competition at 7 o'clock on Friday and at 5 o'clock on Saturday. So we'll do quick recap ones right after the 10Ks on Wednesday and Thursday, and then during all the finals on Friday, Saturday, we'll be doing a live reaction pod throughout the entire duration of the meet. And then the following week, we'll do a couple pods here and there, Monday, Wednesday. And then guess what? It's Olympic trials, where we'll do a live pod after every day of competition, starting on Friday, June 18th. And it's going to be a late night for us because a lot of this competition is at night on the West Coast. So we'll be going live at 10 p.m. Central. So if you're on the West Coast, if you're on the East Coast, you're going to be doing some midnight podding, listening. If you're really into track and field, just stay up late, get some coffee, and listen to us talk about track.
Yeah, on live on the YouTube channel. That's where you can listen to it, or archived later on the site, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can wake up early the next morning and have it be the thing that gets you going first thing in your day, or get you ready for the next day of action. A lot of different options, a lot of podcasts coming. I was curious, Gordon, what Travis was going to name today's episode, because it could have gone in a million different directions, because it seemed like with each passing day, the ante was being upped by another amazing performance and another crazy performance. And he settled on a good one here, which is Olympic favorites are putting on a show, which I think is pretty accurate given the last few days. I guess we should start yesterday. Let's just go like in reverse order here. Sifan Hassan, world record in the 10,000, 29:06 in Hangolo. Remember, she got close-ish to it last year in horrible weather and running by herself. So the thought process was, hey, if she comes back and catches some good weather and is really targeting this thing, she can have a go at it. She just obliterated this thing. She ran alone after the first 6 minutes of this race. She beats Almaz Ayana's record, which was 29:17. I got to say, Gordon, she's got some medals to get in her career before she's, considered one of the, in that GOAT conversation, because she's relatively new to the medaling side of things. But I think she's already established herself on the women's side as having the greatest range of any women's distance runner, because she's done it in championships now. She's done the 15-10, which nobody's ever done. And I get she had to do that because the schedule was screwed up, but she still did it, the 15, the 10. Now she has the 10,000 meter world record, 29:06. She has the mile world record. She has a 3:51 1500 PB. She's run a 1:56 800, and she's run a 65-minute half marathon. Everything she does now just supports the argument that we've never seen anyone on the women's side have the level of range of Sifan Hassan. Do you think she's beatable this year in whatever event she decides to run at the Olympics?
Yeah, you remind me, 1:56 800 to 29:06 10K. That's insane, because 1:56 is like that could win any given year in an 800 at the world stage. And then so you have that speed all the way up to the 10K. It's incredible. I mean, anyone's beatable, especially in a distance race, I feel, because there's multiple factors. I feel like you're more of a lock as the races get shorter than as they get longer, in my opinion, because just, elements, something happens, you never know. She's definitely the heavy favorite. I don't know really right now who is the closest to her. It just like I thought her, what was the year when she did it? That was what, 17 or was that 19 when she did it 10? It was 19 when she did 19. The 10-15. And I felt like that was like her going to be her peak of her career. And I felt like she kind of was going to go down, not downhill, but like not be still going upwards in trajectory of what her true capability would be in her career. And I guess I probably thought that because of the pandemic, and you stop seeing people race as often, and you kind of just feel like, oh, I guess they're done. It's going, they're on the downwards of their career. But then to come out of here in 2021 before the Olympic Games and run the world record, it kind of reminds you that like she's still in the peak of her career, of whatever, of her dominance, and that 2019 isn't going to be the beginning, the pinnacle of her career. I feel like 2021, 2022 has a chance to be her pinnacle after, going into the Olympics with the 29:06 PB. I think you're pretty set for the next few years. And I don't think I'm going to pick her to win. The only way I see her losing is if like it gets in a really, really weird sit and kick race. But even then, she is one of the best kickers in the world. So she clearly shows she can go fast in 29:06 in an honest effort, and she shows she can kick because she knows how to run the 15 and the 8 really quick. So hey, right now she's the top dog, and I don't see anyone beating her. I mean, has it been officially decided what event she's running at the Olympics? Has that been
No, and with
decided?
Sifan Hassan, you never know. You never know with Sifan Hassan until she takes the first step in that first round. Because even in Doha, there was questions about what she was going to do. Even when that one of those doubles was completely impossible, you could not still get a straight answer of like what she's doing. I'm like, no, because Lincoln and I floated it very early on in 2019. We were looking at the schedule and we were saying, man, this actually sets up for a 15:10 thing. But that's crazy. No one would actually do a 15:10. And then she went and did it. I think Lincoln called it the Sifanathon. And you thought, okay, well, you're right. Maybe that was going to be it. I mean, the 351 in that final was nuts, and some of her splits in her 10K were nuts. When I was watching this race, which you can watch, by the way, where, Gordon?
On FloTrack.
Okay. She's clicking
and
off
also
70s,
on YouTube,
man.
Our YouTube channel. Subscribe.
She's clicking off 70s, 70, 70, 70, 70s the whole way through. And, she drifted maybe a little bit here and there, but it was so smooth. It was so effortless. It was like Trae Young going off a pick and roll and just nailing a three, just time and time and time again. And I started thinking, with no one around her really after 6 minutes, are we going to see sub 29 soon? And are we going to see a sub 14 soon from Sifan Hassan?
100%. I mean, 6 seconds over 25 laps is not that much. It's not like she has to be that. I think we're definitely, and it's like it's a close barrier where like it's something that like if the world record was like 29:46, no one's like, ooh, I can get to 29:30. People love seeing that 59.99. And I think when the current record now is at the 06, 6 seconds away, and especially also in the 5K, I definitely think in the next 4 years, we're going to see a sub 29 and a sub 14. 100%. Like
she seems like the top candidate. In the 5K, it seems like she'd be amazing. She'd be a perfect candidate to get that record from Latenza Pekade, take it to the next level. You look at her 5,000 meter PB, right? And you're like, 14:22? All right. That's a great PB, but when you put it up with 156, 65, 29:06, 351, you're like, hey, you got some seconds to shave off there. You could go even faster than your 14:22, Sifan Hassan. It's incredible to think that, but that's in play. And man, the challenge is going to be finding someone to pay if she wants to do another 10,000 and go for sub 29, which I don't think would be this year. It would probably be something that she would tackle next year, or if it was this year, it'd be late in the year past the Olympics. So that's just a huge effort. They'd need to find somebody who could pace her, but then you're talking about somebody who can finding a woman who can run 14:30 for 5K to get you halfway. Or even if you want to do it shorter, you're asking someone to run a very fast pace for 3,000 meters, which is tough. I mean, 14:30, there's been fewer than 66 performances that are in history for the women that are faster than 14:30. So the list of potential rabbits for Sifan Hassan is very, very short. It's not a large list at all. I thought, Gordon, I don't know. Do you remember that 2016 world record race with Alma Zayana at the Olympics and just how weird that one was?
Yes, I do remember that one. Yeah.
So that one was a crazy outlier too, because the old record was above 30. She drops it down to 29:17. A million people PR'd, right? Molly Huddle was way back, but she was running the race of her life. But you never would have known because all the attention was on what was going up up front, and the splits that Ayana was running were otherworldly. But there was a huge negative split in that race as well too. So I thought, okay, well, yeah, this is an outlier, but there were some things in this race that made me think it could be improved. Did I think it was going to go all the way down to 29:06? Maybe not. Maybe not that quick. But you just put Sifan Hassan's marks into a calculator. You put what she's done in the half, as I said, in the mile. And this is probably close to what you get when you have an athlete with these type of abilities across a bunch of different events.
Yeah, if you go back, Travis, bring up Sifan Hassan's profile page when you show all of her PBs. There is a legitimate case that I think she could break the 1,500-meter world record. I think she also can get the 3K and 5K. And if you look at that, she could own the world record in the 15-mile, 3K, 5K, 10K, 1 hour, 5K road. Hell, go get that 10K road. Basically, everything in line is just WR, 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 WR. She just have world record range from 15 up all the way to the 1 hour mark.
And she's 45 seconds off in the half marathon, if you want to throw that out there as well, too. I think at that point, I know we always say medals mean more than records, but if someone does that, I think you need to bump it ahead of all the medals. If you can sweep all the world records in your discipline. I don't know if she'll ever run faster than 156 for the 8 because she's going to longer distances, but that's like you said, that's an amazing time. That's a time that can win world championships. So, yeah, something fun to watch. She's racing a 1,500 this week, so she's dropping down. She's run basically every distance this year already. She's running 8. She'll be running a 15. She's running a 5. She's running a 10. It'll be interesting to see her in that 15 against Kipchoge, reigning champion, Laura Muir, etc. Man, what a race for Sifan Hassan there in Hangzhou, a site of a lot of other world records. So she adds her name to that list. Let's stick with 10K right now. I know this wasn't this was not the most impressive performance of the weekend, but it's pretty consequential when Mo Farah, 10-time gold medalist, struggles. Gordon, he needs to get the standard. He ran 27:50 in this race, and time is running out for Farah to even be able to compete in Tokyo, and that is not a sentence I thought I was going to say. He was not a factor in this European Cup 10K.
Yeah, I mean, so does he need to get a standard because British Athletics is requiring him to get this standard, or does he need to get the standard because World Athletics is requiring it?
I believe it's
because
World
can
Athletics.
He get in? But can he get in on like a ranking? If
I'm assuming British Athletics is not going to say no to Mo Farah. I'm going to go out on a limb and say if they had a rule, there is no longer a rule.
So like maybe he could get on. I don't know how the world ranking thing works in the 10K because it's not a big a field. So maybe everyone will have the standard. But yeah, 8th place in that field. He just lost to Mark Scott. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't really take much away from the gap of victory because I think there's like it's either you have it or you don't, and eventually it's just like, all right, we're not doing it. We're just kind of closing in, and like he probably knew in the final 10 laps it wasn't happening. It wasn't going to be his day. So you can't really take much by losing by 30 seconds, but he is running out of time, and it did seem kind of. What was the reasoning why he wanted to go back to the track? I mean, he retired from the track. Why didn't he just be like, I'm done? Like, why is he tempting himself with another run? He's 38 years old. Hey, man, it's okay to not be a professional 10K runner anymore. Like, it's okay to move on and just collect your speaking fees at college graduations as one of the greatest distance runners in the world of all time. I don't know. Like, why is he putting himself through this? Is he can't handle watching a world-class 10K without him in it? You probably hated watching 2019 from the sideline. Is that it? I don't know.
Well, here's this quote from The Guardian. It says, when asked whether he believed he could still win at the Olympics, which starts in 6 weeks' time, Farah replied, yeah, I believe so. It will take courage and balls to be able to go out there and mix it with the guys. So he said he had an issue with his foot in this race. But if we're talking about 6 weeks before the Olympics, if we're talking about whether or not you can get a qualifier, that means you're in trouble because you're going against guys like Joshua Cheptegei. You're going against guys like Jacob Kiplimo, guys who have run well under 27 minutes. I obviously think he can get it together in time to qualify for the Olympics, but making a podium now is a long shot. Why did he do it? I think 2 words. Your guy that you interviewed on this show, you talked to him about running on cruise ships, Eliot Kipchoge. I think that's a reason why people abandon the marathon. And I think he thought, now remember, he made this decision for the 2020 Olympics. That was the thought process, not the 2020 Olympics. But I think he thought my chances of a medal in the 10,000 are going to be better than they are in the marathon because you basically have Kipchoge taking up a spot. And then, Farah's run obviously some good marathons, but there are others who are more than capable of beating him, not to mention the guys like Kipchoge who are basically a lock to beat him. And I think that's what he thought was the best path to a medal. Now, since that time, Cheptegei's emerged as a force. Kiplimo's emerged as a force. And then he's running up against the reality that when you get older, finding that speed is difficult. For the marathon, it's difficult, and for the 10K, it's difficult. So that's why I think he did what he did. I think at the moment, he thought that was his best chance to medal. I liked it it added another angle, because I don't think we would have, if Farah won this race, put up those results again. If Farah cruised in this race and ran 27:20, I think we'd be saying, all right, well, he got his qualifier. And then if we never saw him again until the Olympic final, would you have counted him out for a medal? No, you wouldn't have counted him out for a medal because you say he's Mo Farah and he's going to have a kick at the end of the thing and at the end of the race, and maybe he can pull it off. Even though him running 27:20 puts him 200 meters behind Cheptegei. But we would have believed that he could do it because he's Mo Farah. And I think Mo Farah's convinced himself that's true too.
I think Mo Farah has an addiction problem, and he's addicted to trying to get world championship medals. He has so many already. He has over 10? How many times has he won a global medal?
10 golds.
He's won 10 golds, not to mention probably some silvers and bronzes.
The two silvers at the end. So he's got 12. He's got 12 total.
Got 12. And does that even include indoors? He probably has a couple indoors too. I don't even know. But he needs to you don't need 13, man. You don't need, it's okay to run in your twilight of your career and not thinking, all right, what's the best way to medal? I think he should have just done the marathon and Kipchoge's in there, but who cares? Challenge yourself. You don't need to scratch and crawl to get yet another. You've already proven it to the world that you're one of the greatest track 10K, 5K runners that's ever lived. Mm-hmm. Getting a 13th isn't going to be oh, that's the one that does it.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay to we see this in all sports, right? And where people in their twilight of their career are always chasing that one last championship, that one last go. And for some people, I think most of the time it doesn't work out. And I feel like the only person who has been really successful in the twilight of their career is Tom Brady. And I think it's just because it's the nature of the way the quarterback position is played. But I feel like you can see LeBron James now dealing with injuries. I'm not sure if LeBron's going to be dominating at age 38 the way he probably thinks he's going to be. Kobe fell off at 35, 36. You just see it a lot in other professional sports that once you cross that 35-year barrier and get closer to 40, you can do incredible things like do a Bernard Lagat and qualify for the Olympic Games, right? At an old age, or do it like Meb Keflezighi and do an incredible thing at the old age of 40 and stuff like that. But to like put the expectation that I don't just want to qualify, I want to be top 3 in the world. I think it's a little too much. I think it's
But I think
okay
you have
to just stay.
At that level. I think you have to convince yourself because the motivation required to get going and your thought process. You've only won. You're right. Silver was a failure for him all those years. Gold was the expectation because he did it so many times. I think you have to convince yourself. And I think he was a good marathoner, but I think you could legitimately, in 2019, you legitimately could have made an argument before the huge jump up from Cheptegei. I think you could have made an argument that he might have a better chance in the 10K of getting a medal than he is in the marathon because we had seen the marathon enough times. The first couple times, you're like small sample size. All right, he gets a win in Chicago, but then he has an off race. I don't know where he's at, but I think clearly it would have been a challenge to get a medal in both races. But you could have said something goes crazy in the 10K and you get a tactical race or something that plays to his favor. Maybe he could pull it off. But right now, yeah, it looks dire when you're talking about trying just to qualify. But speaking of older athletes, Cheyenne Fraser-Pryce, 34 years old, goes out there and runs a lifetime best. Now, you might want to quantify, hey, how big of a deal was this? Well, this was a big enough deal to put JoJo on the BBC, folks. That's how fast this time was. Fraser-Pryce, 10:63. Only FloJo has run faster. She didn't even lean at the line. Does not even lean at the line. We'll talk about Bromell in a bit, too. He didn't lean either. Nobody was leaning this weekend. I think it's too early in the season to lean if you're running the 100. That was my one takeaway from this. But this just amps up the 100. This takes the 100 on the women's side, Gordon, to a whole new level. We've seen what Sha'Carri did, but Fraser-Pryce dropping a 10.6, something she had said she wanted in her career. But everybody was probably like, okay, that's a good goal to have. You can probably still keep winning medals, but are you going to be able to PR still? Are you going to be able to run that far under 10.7 still? And I just can't believe it. This was a shock. If you told me in 10 years we were never going to see a time this quick, I might have believed you. And that's even with Richardson doing what she's done this year because we just haven't seen this time yet in our lifetime.
Yeah, I did not see this coming, especially at her age. Talk about she's 34. I thought what she did in 2019 was incredible enough, but this is like making 2019's wins just feel like years ago because 10.6 is a different level. And there was just like crazy reactions. First of all, Carmelita Jeter officially got to give her the throne of fastest woman alive, something that Jeter was very proud of, and she used that hashtag fastest woman alive in all of her tweets. It was like her email signature for, her entire time on the internet. And now she finally has to give that up. She can't call herself the fastest woman alive. So she was happy for Shelly-Ann. But I think the tweet of the ultimate reaction tweet had to been from Sha'Carri Richardson. We got to put that up. It just got me excited for the Tokyo Olympics. It got me excited to see like her and Shelly-Ann go up against each other because when you see someone run 10.6 and your immediate reaction is you're welcome and you weren't even in the race, she tweeted, "My presence in the track game, making history happen. No need for a thank you, fire emoji." This is so great. Look at this. There's 522 quote tweets, meaning there's a lot of people reacting to it, probably Jamaican fans who are like, how dare you say that you are the reason for Shelly-Ann's greatness? But that's what you want. You want the 21-year-old to be like, you're welcome. And then that just builds up the Tokyo final even more. And we need more of this. We need more Sha'Carri Richardsons in our sport to just like, she's trolling and people are just eating it up. You got to love it. And I know she knows in the back of her mind, like, whoa, Shelly-Ann is legit. And she's excited. She's excited that she knows that there's someone else on this globe who's gonna challenge her. And I think that she's like, oh, okay, now I know 10.7 is not enough. This is great. This is gonna get me to be a 10.6 runner quicker than I expected. And
listen,
if they're both on fire, we could see a 10.59, I think, at the Olympic final. if they're both on fire.
Slow down a little bit with that. But listen, even if Fraser Price didn't run this time, like if their season best stayed the same heading into the Tokyo Olympics, just say they continued on the exact same trajectory. So Richardson goes in with a 10-7. Fraser Price had that win in Doha in 10-8. I think a lot of the track world would have still gone with Fraser Price because they'd have said the championship experience is worth something, and this is a whole different ball game, and we're going to go with experience and pick Fraser Price. But now that she has that time, right? She's got the time advantage, and she has the medal advantage her for the moment. But you're right. Two people, 10:72 or faster. This women's race is amazing. Not to mention, I mean, look at this. Thompson Hurrah has run 10:78. Natasha Morrison, who was second in that race against Fraser Price, 10:87. Jamaica is loaded in this event, and the women's 100 is where it's at this year. The women's 100 is going to be sensational. I think those are going to be the fastest times we see this year. I don't want to throw cold water on it. I don't want to put limits on it, but I think those will be the two fastest times. But it doesn't matter. At this point, the stage has been set. Richardson goes 10-7 again and again and again. Fraser Price, she got fourth in that race in Gateshead, so finished behind her and Asher Smith. Weather was terrible, but then she counters with a 10-6. Are you kidding me? She counters with a 10-6? Like, this is going to be great. In 6 weeks,
10-6
this is
low.
amazing.
10-6 low.
I want to
fast forward to 10-6-9. We're talking 10-6-3.
I just want to fast forward to the Olympic final right now. Asher Smith, you have to put her in the equation as well. This women's 100 is just leaped up, in my opinion, as one of the must-watch events in the program.
Yeah, and you scroll back up on, like, you show that Jamaica has, what, three of the top four?
Yeah.
Hey, Jamaica's 4x1. They're going to be good. I mean, when you have a 10-6 and a 10-7 current 10-6 and a current 10-7 on your and a 10-8 on your squad, that's going to be a quick 4x1. USA's going to have to really battle to be in the mix with Jamaica, especially if those three run well. I mean, I guess USA, if obviously Richardson will be on it right now, but then you kind of have younger people like Twanisha Terry, Cambria Sturgis, and then obviously you have the older guard like Aaliyah Hobbs now, and a few others like Akinosin, and but like, yeah, USA's gonna have to. This has a lot. Normally, like, it was the men's USA team that always was like, USA women were always good at kind of showing up when it mattered most to be able to put themselves in gold medal position. But it could be like a changing of the guard where like the men now are going to be able to dominate the 4x1 and the women are going to have to struggle to get second. So we'll see. But what would be your 4x1 right now?
Well, I want to mention Tiana Bartoletta dropped a sub 11 over the weekend, 10.96. So don't count her out. Who would be my 4x1 for the U.S. on the women's side?
The women.
I mean, I would want to see the final at the Olympic trials. It's too close. I mean, Richardson. Yeah, I wish I had a more dynamic, interesting, controversial pick for you, but I don't have any strong feelings because I don't know who separated themselves from the other folks there. But Richardson.
I would say Richardson, Hobbs, Terry, and then that fourth spot, a vet. Find one of the vets, like,
do you know?
An Akinosin or a Bartoletta type. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know where it's really a mess though? Will be the U.S. men's 4x1. That's where it's going to be a mess because you have Bromell in there solid, and he drops a 9.77 over the weekend. 9.77 becomes the ninth man in history to break 9.8. But in second place, Marvin Bracey out of nowhere, 9.85. So you have this insane list. If you go to the men's 100 world list right now, U.S. is all over the top 15 here with several guys who have run 9.9 low, 9.8 high. Obviously, Bromell, you feel good about as that lock. But who's going to get these other spots at the trials, Gordon? Is it going to be a Baker, Isaiah Young, Gatlin, Bracey's in the mix. Oh, what about Noah Lyles? Don't forget about Noah Lyles, a person coming into the year that we thought would for sure make the team. It's cliche to say it, but I think that anybody in that final could get top three. They're unless there's some huge injury news or big scratches coming. I think it's going to be Bromell, tiny little gap, and then it's going to be almost a blanket finish there for those other spots. It is just so deep right now. We'll put up the men's 100 in the United States list, which basically is the world list right now because there's not too many people. There's not. Like, if you look at the world list, this is the world list. Excuse me.
Yeah.
First person not from the U.S. tied for fifth. There's three non-U.S. guys in the top 10, but there's a lot of U.S. there.
Man, it's just like you can come up with a reason for like and against like 8 different people for that second and third spot. And this is without, and it's all going to get changed again a week from now when we're going to see Terrence Laird, Matt Bowling, and Lance Lang and all these guys, Javon Martin, run out of their mind probably in the NCAA final. Like, we're going to have a bunch of, like, if Terrence Laird goes out and runs like a 9.8, then all of a sudden we're like, okay. I mean, he's already running 9.8. It was wind aided, but like, it's really hard to decide who that 2-3 is. I don't know, man. Like, because you have the Gatlin factor, because he has the experience, he's been consistent, and then you just have so many other, like, not Jalen Slade, a high school kid, he's run 10.09. So
here's the wild part about it. I don't think any of us would have predicted at the beginning of the season that Bromell would be a 9.77 guy. But it's almost coming to the point where he needed to be a 9.7. I think if we said at the beginning of 2020, hey, if Bromell gets down into the 9.95s, that's like a huge accomplishment, or 9.9 low. But it's a good thing he's gotten back to where he is and exceeded where he's been, because everybody else is just like right there. I mean, 9.77 obviously puts him in rare company, but with how deep the U.S. is this year, can you imagine if Coleman was there?
I can't imagine. I know we did a whole segment on after Isaiah Young ran his 9.89, like, can Noah Lyles make the 100 team? And now with adding Marvin Bracey with the 9.85, I think we might be seeing a. I mean, I don't want to make my official pick, but I think the team could be Bromell. Don't hold me to this. I think Bromell.
We'll stop recording. You don't need to make a pick. Don't make a pick now.
Okay, I won't make a pick.
But here's the thing.
I'll hold it off.
You've talked about this before, where it's not just about doing it once. You like to pick the people who do it a bunch of times. Okay, yes. But now you have a situation where there's a lot of people who have done it maybe one time. And that has to be concerning for someone like a Lyles, because all it takes is one person recapturing the magic, and then you're going to be in trouble. Because you could discount one person running an amazing time in May or April or early June and say, okay, let's see them do it after a bunch of rounds of the trials. But now you have multiple people who have run these times. And some of them have done it on a number of occasions. Like we talked about Young being a guy who's been in the mix. Bracey's run fast. It's been a while, but he's run fast. There's fewer people that you can discount now than you could before. And I think it's going to make for a very interesting battle for those three spots. The only person I feel good about, the only person anybody should feel good about is Trayvon Bromell. And that's just because he's running out of his mind. Another member of the No Lean at the Line Club this weekend.
I remember when I did a podcast with Bromell a few months ago. I'm not sure if he said it on the pod or off the pod, but he did mention, I was like, oh, so who's like going to make the team with you? Like who's going to get second and third? And he's like, oh, definitely it's going to be me and Marvin going 1-2. And at the time, Marvin Bracey had only run like 10-2 and then had like not really run anything like to even be in the category. Obviously, he made the team in 2016, but like he had done nothing publicly that would even anyone would even put on their list of potential finalists, right? And he just said it's like, oh no, they're there. And then as soon as he runs 985, I'm like, oh, Bromell clearly knew something that we did not know because obviously he's his training partner. He knew that maybe he's running 10-2 publicly, but as we get closer to the trials, he's going to be a 9-8 guy, and clearly Bromell knew. So it'll be kind of they're two Florida boys. They train together. They both made the team in 2016. I'm sure him and Marvin are thinking like, this is our destiny. We're going to do it again. Everyone is talking about the Gatlins, the Lyles, and the college kids, but it's going to be Bromell and Bracey, which would be a crazy 1-2 punch to think about that being a 2021 team, because they both were kind of like forgotten. Bromell with all the injuries, you thought his career's over. Bracey gave up. He decided to try football again, and you thought, okay, he's not going to make a comeback. And if they both be able to get back in 2021, they'll be insane. So
you could have gotten
yeah.
insane odds a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah, that parlay. Yeah.
So Bracey and Bromell between 2018 and 2019 combined, guess how many races they ran?
1.
2. And they were from Bromell in one season. Bracey didn't run 18-19. Bromell didn't run 18. He ran twice in 2019, a couple of 10-5s. I mean, the chances of this happening a couple years, even 20. Look at this is 2020. This is 2020 Bracey. All right,
10:31. 2017 he ran 10:39. That's just like insane.
At the right time, though. They're peaking at the right time.
Timing it.
Never in doubt.
Yeah, it's
never in doubt.
They know that there's no glory in being good in off years or being good in pandemic years. The only matter is you just got to be good in Olympic years. And Bracey could have the wildest career to be a 2-time Olympian where he's had multiple seasons where he's not even breaking 10 seconds. And if you're and a 2-time Olympian in the hardest event to make, which is the men's 100 in the U.S. So one of the hardest to make. So, yeah, it'll be insane if they make it. So we'll see.
There's three more results I wanted to touch on, and then I want to get to NCAAs, if that's okay with you. Does that sound good?
Sounds good, man.
Okay, so we'll start first here with, let's talk about Josh Kerr's 331. Let's just talk about Portland Track Festival in general. Kerr 331, and Central runs all 3 heats of the 800. Your thoughts?
331 is what we expect. I think that's exactly what Kerr is. Kerr is a 331 guy. Him and Oliver Hoare have shown that they are kind of creating the range of what they are, right? The 6th to 3rd range in the world when it comes to the final. And now they're consistently putting together even more impressive 1500s. And hey, if Kerr can run 331, there should be that like the fact that it's this also goes to prove my point. The fact that 331 is the fastest 1500 meter on U.S. soil, there's a reason for that, because for some reason the 1500 on the U.S. side, we don't have the ability to run as fast as what I think they're capable of. And Kerr now running the 2nd fastest time in the world. A month or 2 ago, he was in the 7 to 4 range. I think he's now sneaking up into the 5 to 2nd range, right? I think I could see him upsetting an Ingebrigtsen or a Chariot. You know, I'm not ready to say he could win. But I do think he could get all the way up to 2nd, because crazy things happen in the Olympics. But the rise of Kerr to go from, middling guy who could maybe sneak into a final to now a solid final guy to now what I think is, hey, you have a good shot to get 2nd or 3rd. If you have an amazing race, you get 2nd. If you have a solid race, you can get 3rd. Shows the development of Kerr. And give up props to Coach Danny Mackey, Brooks Beast. He found one, and he's able to create. I mean, if Josh Kerr was an American doing this and he was on Brooks Beast, everyone would be like flipping out and be like, "Oh my god!" Like, what?
Mhm.
Like, there'll be a lot more crazy reaction to it because U.S. media is kind of only going to really focus on U.S. athletes, it can kind of go under the radar. But hey, look at that list. Bring it up. There was a great era in middle distance NCAA competition. Josh Kerr there second, Oliver Hoare there seventh, Justin Knight eighth, and then I guess Craig Engels down there in 10th. So not too bad for the NCAA system, right? To give us a Knight, a Hoare, and a Kerr. So
As for Centro, gets a good workout in. It would have been cool to see him in this race against Kerr, but I think he's confident in his position going into the trials. Runs a 150, 149, just some negative splits. His recovery was just basically when the women were running their 800. I do like the fact that in the results they listed him as Matthew Centrowitz 2, and then Matthew Centrowitz 3 because he appears 3 different times. I did not know that was allowed, but pretty amazing. One question I'm wondering: did he have to pay 3 entry fees? Do you know that, Gordon? Can we get a anyway? Okay.
I think he had to get 2 different. Real question: he had to do 3 COVID tests. Like, he had to do a COVID test for each individual entry.
But 3 parking passes.
I mean, what do you think of that workout? 140. So the order of the workout was, I think he did a 150 first. It was like 150, 149, and 153. So, what do you think that says about his fitness? I mean, obviously, I think he's fit. He's proven it with his 335 or 334. So, what do you think?
Here's what I know. A couple months ago, he ran a 150, and that was the only thing he did that day. He did not do 2 other 800s. And now he's doing a 149 after he just did a 150. I'm not a rocket scientist or a Jerry Schumacher, but that seems to be good. And coming on the heels of 335, I do think it's funny. I mentioned this the other day. Remember the rumors that Shelby did a workout instead of running, or she did a time trial instead of running that last 1500? So you have one Bowerman person skipping the race to do a workout, and then you have another Bowerman athlete in Centrowitz doing a workout in a race. It's kind of like all flipped upside down. It's kind of interesting how they did it. Zigging and zagging there for Jerry Schumacher. Excuse me. I read it as how confident is Centro in himself, and this to me is a sign that he's very confident, because he wouldn't show up and do this publicly if he didn't think it was going to go well. That's what I think. Like, you don't do a public workout like this if you're not fit. That's what I think.
Yeah, I was talking with a friend about what Centro's doing, and I just feel like ever since the Olympics, I feel like there's always been kind of like a question mark around Centro with, like, because he would go out and run like a 150, 800, and he wasn't he would then put together a couple good races, but there wasn't like that dominant, like, Centro is the reigning Olympic champion. He's the best in the U.S. He would miss a USA's. He was hurt. He didn't make a final in 2017. 18 was an off year, so he didn't run as much. 19 was not the same as well. He was injured. And there's just so much, like, weirdness around Centro. This is the first season that I feel like he is, like, the defending Olympic champion. Like, take out that 150, but, like, he clearly ran well in one of those track meets in California. He does this really good workout. It's the first time I have, like, no question marks around Centro, which is great because, he just kind of was living off of, like, hey, I show up when it counts, and he was doing that. But then he had a couple little weird bumps and bruises in the past 4 years. But now we know he's going to show up when it counts. We know he's going to probably win the trials, and we know he's going to make it to the Olympic final, and he will be, depending how the race tactics play out, be in contention to medal, if not win. So, I mean, the Chariot factor is really going to affect whether or not Centro's winning an Olympic gold. So if Chariot does what he does, then Centro's not winning gold. But if he doesn't, then Centro could win gold. So.
David in the chat says that Centro did the 3/800s thing in 2016 as well, too. Maybe he's just taken a page from a successful playbook. Anybody if you talk to Centro, he's a student of the sport, and he has almost an encyclopedic knowledge of everybody's performances and his own performances. And he knows exactly where he needs to be at the exact time. Or one time I was talking to him and he mentioned, I think it was a race, some prelim race. He was confident that he was going to qualify because the split he came through at 800 was like similar to like a Pac-12 800 he raced against Corey Prim like 5 years before. It was just it was uncanny the way he recalled the split and apparently did it in the moment, and it gave him confidence that he can close because he did it in a Pac-12 meet, basically going one-on-one against another guy. It was very strange. So in an impressive way, I think he is really able to know exactly what he needs, especially as it pertains to the U.S., about how to make a team, and that's what he's doing. And I think he's taking the exact steps he needs to make sure he can win that trials 1500. So let's talk about Mclaughlin real quick.
One last conspiracy theory hat, put on my tinfoil hat. Do you think one of the reasons Centro did this workout publicly was to play mind games with the field and be like, oh, okay, like to like intimidate the rest of the U.S. 1500 meter runners? Be like, yeah, this is what I am. One, I'm an Olympic champion, but look, I'm fit. This is the workout.
Yeah.
And they're going to be kind of more nervous to challenge Centro because they know like, oh, Centro is still legitimate. I don't know.
What would have been
mind games?
What would have been more impressive? What would have been more impressive, this workout or him running against Josh Kerr and running a 3:33? In your opinion?
Losing the jogging 3:33.
Yeah, Kerr still runs his 3:31, but Centro runs a 3:33. To me, the more impressive result would have been the 3:33 because it's like, oh damn, that's 2 seconds faster than he ran before, and there's not a lot of people.
Yeah, but it's a loss.
In the US.
It's a loss, though.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. This leaves out that air of mystery of like, well, how good a shape is he? Could he have run with Kerr? We don't know. And also, he knows he doesn't need time trialing 3:31s to get ready. Back to my early point. He knows he doesn't need that. What he needs is that devastating windup, that really strong last 800, in particular, that really strong last quarter. He knows that that's what's going to push him over the edge and separate him from the group. So for him, there's no value in that. So I get why he's doing that. Would I have liked to see him race Josh Kerr? Obviously, anybody who's a track fan wants to see the two of the best guys run against each other. But I think for him, this made a lot more sense. And the intimidation factor maybe is part of it as well, too. I'm not going to let you stop me anymore. We're talking about Sydney now.
All right. Sorry.
So anybody who thought she was going to take a little while to get adjusted to the 400 hurdles after running the high hurdles, we're in for a rude awakening. Sydney Mclaughlin runs 52:83, one of her fastest times ever. In fact, it was faster than her trials U.S. champs race in 2019 when she was runner-up to Dalal Muhammad when Muhammad ran the world record. So all is well in the Mclaughlin world. She's obviously now a lock to make the team, as if she wasn't before, but we hadn't seen it yet. She looked fine. Going over hurdle 9, looked like she chopped her steps a bit. Other than that, looked really clean, looked really good. Muhammad this weekend ran a 54.5, so she ran a little bit faster than before. But I think we're looking at a Mclaughlin, Muhammad, Little team in some order.
Yeah, I remember there was a time where could Little win the 400 hurdles? It's like, that's gone now. Little's not winning the 400 hurdles. Mclaughlin is going to be the favorite, if not. I mean, Muhammad, we have to give still like the. Mm-hmm. She's done it before. She's world record holder and Olympic champion. But I guess who would you say is the favorite? Is it Muhammad, who has done in the past? Is it Mclaughlin, who's run fast now? Or is it Little, who's kind of just running consistently quick multiple times?
For the trials,
Yeah. What's your order?
I think right now I would take Sydney McLaughlin
Me
for the
too.
trials. And you can say recency bias, but here's the thing. 2019, she wasn't that far behind her. It's not like there was this huge gap between McLaughlin and Muhammad. In fact, McLaughlin beat her a couple times. Now Muhammad won when it counts at the trials and at the World Championships. Broke the world record twice, but we're only a few days away. So I think McLaughlin is the favorite going into Eugene. Now, what does that mean for the Olympics? I don't think a whole heck of a lot, because then you got a bunch of time then to get ready. We don't really remember the trials champion that much, particularly if the Olympic champion finished second or third at the trials. But for this race coming up in 2 weeks, I'd take McLaughlin because she looked real good, and we just haven't seen that yet in 2021 from Muhammad.
Do you think we're going to see a bunch of racing between the trials and the Olympics?
Do I think we're going to see a bunch of racing between the trials and the Olympics?
By people who make the team?
Yes. I think so. I think there's enough opportunities in Europe. I think there's going to be, because it's in Tokyo, there's going to be a desire to get overseas, perhaps quicker. I don't know, man. I've been wrong on all this guessing who's going to race when and how many races are going to be, because I didn't think anybody would really go overseas. And then so many Americans were in Doha and in Gateshead. Like, I've been wrong on a lot of this, and we just haven't been out there as much to talk to people.
Nice. I just wondered, because I'm looking at is this Sydney? Yeah, Sydney's 2019 400 hurdles. Like, it's kind of like she ran her first 400 hurdles on June 7th, and I was like, that seems kind of late. But comparing it to last in 2019, she had only run 2 400 hurdles by June 13th, right?
Yeah, but look at what trials was last year.
Exactly.
Trials
that's
was
what
end of July.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's probably why things are kind of shifted. Why, like, hey, maybe she's recognizing, like, it's okay to not. I guess the Worlds was in October, so that is different as well. But I don't know. How many 400 hurdles does she run?
Look at it this way.
Yeah.
Look at it this way. She ran her first, go back to 2019, she ran her first 400-meter hurdle race. It looked like 7 weeks before trials, right? May 11th, she ran her first 400 hurdle race. And then the trials race was on July 27th. So about 10 weeks or so. This time, she's running her first hurdle race, 2 weeks before. Yeah. This is why I try not to put as much stock into that's her fastest debut ever, or she's never run this fast this early, because it means different things in different seasons. And the fact that she's raced a bunch in these high hurdle races, but didn't run a 400-meter hurdle race, means that her debut, whenever she runs a 400-meter hurdles, is going to be different than in years past, because she just hasn't done it like this before. So I don't think you can put too much stock into that, other than, hey, she ran one of the fastest times of her life a couple weeks before the trials. It's reasonable to consider that she's going to run right at her PR, or maybe even faster at the trials.
Yeah. Don't talk about the final race. That interesting race, I guess.
No,
or notable
I want to talk
result?
about. Let's talk about NCAA's, because we're running out of time.
Okay.
We're at NCAA's starting on Wednesday, so we're not going to preview every single event in the 10 minutes that we have left. But
I do have breaking news.
Okay, so we're never going to talk about NCAA's. Basically,
no, we can talk about. Dude, here's the thing: we can talk about NCAA. We're going to talk about it for 4 straight days. Kira D'Amato just announced that she's not running the trials on Instagram.
Injury?
Travis, you want to pull up her Instagram? He might have left. I don't know. She says, "I'm not even sure what to say, so I'll rip the Band-Aid off. I will not be competing at the U.S. Olympic trials later this month. Sport can be funny day in and day out. You're pushing your physical and mental limits, training. on a razor's edge in pursuit of personal limits. The fall of 2020, I was able to push those limits and accomplish some incredible personal feats. Unfortunately, this spring season was on the other side of that equation. It's been humbling, but it's part of the sport, part of my journey. All I can do now is learn the lesson, shake it off, press restart, and start training towards the fall. I'm down, but I'm not out. Thank you for all those who believe in me and supported me. This was a hard post to write because I feel part of the enormous team of people pursuing their second chance or round two. Quote, please don't feel sorry for me. This is just might be the kick in the pants I needed to accomplish a new level of goals. And plus, I've always enjoyed the scenic route. Hey, I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of having to pull out of the trials. What she did is incredible. Her marathon times speak for themselves. And I think this is, and it's going to be a blessing in disguise. She's going to be able to focus on the fall marathon season, run a even better, maybe, she wasn't going to make the team at the Olympic trials. Like, what's going to be more enjoyable? Like running at the Olympic trials and finishing 8th to 12th, or going to a major and maybe finishing top 3. Like, I think that is going to be more rewarding. And in the end, I think it's going to be okay for her. But, man, she was that weird, wild. Yeah, for sure. 100%. She ran really well at the December marathon, right? The Marathon Project. I think she's gonna, if she finds a way to get to herself or what she was last fall, I don't see her, especially in a diluted field of everyone's gonna be spread out because all the marathons are in the fall. There's an opportunity to sneak into a third place spot at New York or Chicago. I don't know. It could happen. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. No, I think because of the amount of fall marathons, that's a true point. I guess she didn't really say why she's not running the trials there. I mean, we always assume something like an injury here, but she was good in so many events, and that's a good problem to have. But I could also see how it would be a little bit of a curse too, because you're just like jumping around trying to figure out, especially if you're in the same range, like, oh, I'm 5th to 15th best in the country in 3 different events. Well, you'd rather be firmly in the top 3 in one event than have the position of being on the outside looking in on 3 different events. So yeah, maybe this will help her zero in on the marathon. Takes a little bit of depth, obviously, out of that, at a 5 and 10, but there's obviously plenty of women there who will fill in that spot. So you successfully filibustered to make sure we never talk about the NCAA. I'm always telling you on this show, let's talk about the NCAA more.
Well, here's the thing.
No, let's not.
We talked about the NCAA last pod. We're going to do, we'll talk. We have so much time to talk about the NCAA this week, starting on Wednesday night. It's going to be great. We'll talk about Jenny.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Jenny, and then you can do 60 seconds of Sixers. Okay, so Jenny Simpson, she gets second to Danielle Aragon at the Festival of Miles race. Better, obviously, than the 4:10. But I went back and looked at Jenny's long history of making teams, and she's in a spot that she's not been in yet in her career. And since she moved to running the 1500, so starting in 2011, every year prior to the U.S. champs or the Olympic trials, she had at least one, what I would call quality win, or a quick time. Maybe she would go to Europe and get 5th or 6th in a race, but she'd run 3:59. She'd stay here in the U.S. and maybe she wouldn't run as fast, but she'd win Drake, or she'd finish 3rd at Pre. There was always something to hang your hat on heading into the trials. The concerning part to me is the closing speed. Aragon was behind her with 400 to go and then passed her. Can she get that fixed in a couple weeks? Perhaps. And as Jenny Simpson, she's going to be able to manage herself through the rounds. I see this going one of 2 ways, at least from how we perceive it. One, she runs that first round and looks amazing, chills with the pack, and then does this huge burst with 200 to go and then shuts it down with 50 to go. And we're like, okay, she's back. It just took her a couple weeks, but Jenny's back. Anybody who picked against her is going to get their eraser out or hit the delete key and mark it off. Or she's going to, I would expect her still to make it through to the final, but it's going to be a fight just to get through the final. And that's going to make us want to say, hey, maybe this is the year that the streak finally comes to an end. But I think this performance was right on the edge. It gave enough evidence to believe that she could do it in a couple weeks. But also, it's like if you're getting beat by Danny Aragon, well, you're going to have a tough time beating Houlihan, Purrier, Johnson, Hiltz. If Kate Grace runs it, Heather McLean. I'm sure that I'm missing Shannon Osika. There's a lot of people there in that mix that you're going to be contending with if you can't beat Aragon.
Yeah, I mean, I just agree with you. I don't know what else to add. I mean, again, this is also just a weird situation, right? Not situation, but there's so many great athletes that there's a point when all of a sudden it's not the same as what they were a few years ago, and no one can dominate an event group for forever, right? It all comes to an end eventually, and everyone wants that fairy tale ending where you end it with like a gold, and then you have the John Elway touchdown moment, and then you retire into the sunset. But some people kind of hold on. I mean, there was a time when Leo Manzano was like just dominating every 1500. He'd show up at the trials when it mattered most and always be top 3, and he would make a team. But then there was that year where he just wasn't the same, and then it was over. And I think maybe the pandemic probably could have hurt Jenny Simpson the most, right? I think maybe if the Olympics were in 2020 and that one less year of age and training would have been able to allow for Jenny to squeak in one more, dominant season to be able to be at the top in the U.S. ranks. But based on what we've seen so far, I have to agree with you. I don't think she has it this year. I think the rest of the young groups have caught up with her and have passed her. We literally saw it. Danny Aragon made the pass of her. But I think she'll still be able to gut it out and make a final. But I just don't think she's going to have that kick in that final 200, final 300 to really be anywhere near the top 3. There's just too much other talented runners out there, and especially the 1500. I mean, Elle and Shelby are taking 2 of the spots. So that's not like, it's really, can she beat out all of those others that you named for that one spot? I just don't see that happening. I think
so. Here are the other.
To me, I think a successful race for her will be like finishing 6th. Like I'll be like, whoa, I didn't see that. Jenny finished 6th. That would be impressive to me.
But that being said, would you be surprised if she pulled off a 3rd place finish? Like if I told you Houlihan and Purrier gap the field and it's a 4-woman race with 200 to go for that 3rd spot and Jenny pulls it out, would you be surprised? I wouldn't. Here's the people. Here's the non-Purrier. Here's a non-Purrier / Houlihan group. Osika that have run faster than her this year. And I know it's 1,500 times on everything, but this is just a list here. Osika, Cranny, Grace, Jones, Coburn, Schlachterhafen, Schneider, McLean, McGee, Barnett, Aragon, Lancaster, Hiltz, Cash, Johnson, Norris. Those are the people who have run quicker than her other than Purrier, and I guess Shelby didn't have the time this year. Here's the thing. Here's what more than the off year, because I mean we can debate forever who was helped and hurt by the cancellation. The 5 and the 10 overlapping hurt her here, because instead of having 2 options, she has just 1. And I think the 5 would have been an interesting thing to pursue, especially if that final kick is not there for her. Because yes, the 5 is hard, but you could see Jenny figuring a way to get on the team in that event, or at least giving herself a second shot. Now, maybe some other women would have, taken advantage of that as well too. Undoubtedly, that would have been the case. But Simpson ran 1450 indoors at the beginning of 2020. She had a good mark in the 5,000.
I was thinking this 1,500 kind of reminds me of like the change of guard where you had the Solomon and Nick Simmons Dwayne Solomon,
Mhm.
Nick Simmons. And that guard kind of changed to now be Bryce Hoppel and Donovan Brazier / Clayton Murphy a bit. You could Hoppel and Murphy. Murphy kind of goes back and forth between the 15 and the 8. And then here in the 1500, you have the Shannon and Jenny battle back and forth where they're breaking each other's records. But one would argue that's not really a back and forth because I remember when I interviewed Jenny, she's like, I beat her all the time. She told me. So I was like, oh, okay, sorry. But that was in Monaco when she wanted to correct me. He's like, she hasn't beat me that often. I was like, oh, okay, sorry. But you had that dynamic, and now kind of that has been kind of change of the guard has been given to El Purier and Shelby Houlihan. So a great, and I think it's great. You can, great back and forth between,
But here's the thing, though.
Dwayne and Nick, and I have
the guard might have changed. The guard might have changed, right? Houlihan was better than her in 19. Beat her, finished ahead of her in Doha, but she was still good enough to make the team.
Yeah,
and that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about is she going to win the trials? Just can she continue this insane streak? Because this goes back to 2007. That's like when Simmons was making teams. You talk about Simmons and Solomon. If they were continuing through till today, that's what we'd be talking about with people making, like, the longevity here is unprecedented. And it doesn't matter to me. The question isn't if she wins the trials or not. The question is, can she just squeak out a top 3? I'm still giving her a shot. But I think after this weekend, it's a long shot for sure. Better than she was, but still behind a lot of quality women. Needs something to go right. Speaking of being behind, let's go to you for the 60 seconds of Sixers. I will put the time on the clock. We will do this, and then we will get out of here and see people on Wednesday. Ready, set, go.
You keep on giving me these 60-second takes during the worst times of being a Sixers fan, whether it was right after Joel Embiid's injury, now it's after they're down 0-1. But they looked fine. I mean, the second half, they were much better. They were rusty. They didn't know about Joel Embiid. Everything's going to be fine. As long as they win on Tuesday, I'll be okay. And I'll say this. I keep comparing them to the 2015 Golden State Warriors. In the second round of the playoffs in 2015, Golden State went down 2-1 in the second round to the number 5 seed Memphis Grizzlies. So, hey, they're supposed to be down. That's what happened to the Warriors before their dynasty started. This was going to happen to the Sixers here. You beat down early. It gets you ready for when it matters most. So if you go down in the Eastern Conference Finals or the Finals, you know what it feels like. This is go out. They're going to win by 15 in Game 2, and all will be right in the
time. Good job. You did almost exactly 60 seconds. You're getting the hang of this. Well done. I'll only offer one thing. You got to figure out a way, and I told you. Well, Patrick says hack a Ben Simmons. No, we're trying to cheer Gordon up here. I told you to text this to Daryl, your friend, the GM. You got to figure out a way to make Trey play defense. You can't just let him sit in the corner on Danny Green the entire game. He cannot defend. The one time Danny Green got the ball at the elbow, he drove right by Trae Young. Danny Green is not a dribble drive player. That's how much of a liability Trae Young is on defense. You cannot just let him stand there in the corner. You, Doc, Daryl, put your heads together, figure it out.
I mean, if you look at the box score, all of our starters were like +5 to +13, and all of their starters were -5 to -13. Like Trae Young was a -8 or 10. So Embiid was a +13.
How to play. Yeah.
Well, no, the main reason we played an all bench lineup when they went up 14. So we just made mistakes in the first round, in the first half. We'll be fine. Hey,
here we go.
We weren't going to go 16-0. It's fine.
Wednesday, 10:20 p.m. Tune in to this channel. That's Central Time. So 9:20 Mountain, 8:20 p.m. Pacific, 11:20 Eastern. After day 1 of the NCAA Championships, we will be here to recap it. It'll be a lot of fun. Tune in. Gordon will dive deep on that first 10K. We'll talk about the prelim results. It'll be exciting. We'll see you guys then. Thanks to Travis. Thanks to Colt. FloTrack Podcast. Subscribe.